As we've all heard, Kristaps Porzingis is slated to come back likely in Game 3 of the conference finals per Adrian Wojnarowski, saying he'll be out Games 1 and 2 on Tuesday and Thursday. And hey, that's Woj speak for. He'll be back in Game 3. But there are some details around this Kristaps Porzingis update that has a lot of Celtics fans maybe up in arms whether we should even bring him back early in this series. And I'm going to get into some of those details with you. But first, we also got to talk about Joe Mazzulla and some pretty interesting comments he made on the Celtics status and their key changes this playoff. So stick around for all that on this episode of Celtics Digest. But before we get into the video, I'm just asking you for one thing, to just hit the like button. It pushes us out to other Celtics fans. It helps you see the number go up on a screen. Everyone likes that. Plus, it helps us find a new audience. Really appreciate if you could hit the like, but let's just move right into the video. We got to start with Joe Mazzulla. Now, we're going to get into Kristaps later. I promise. You can feel free to skip ahead, actually. I'll put a timestamp for it. If you're not interested in this, that's fine, but I think you might actually be interested in what he had to say here. So, Jared Weiss got to speak a little bit with Joe Mazzulla, and well, here's a quote that he had. So Mazzulla said, people always ask about what's different between this year and last year. The difference is we've had time. He went on to talk about how Boston has learned to communicate how they want to operate better. Now, on the surface, this seems like, okay, that's not much, but when you dive a bit deeper into exactly what he means, it makes a ton of sense. Now, also, the Celtics roster is just better this year. Like, you go out and get Jrue Holiday, you go out and get Kristaps Porzingis, and yes, you lose Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon. There's a lot of pieces moving around, but I think the roster is much better this year, despite people saying the Celtics would have bench issues earlier in the year. Hey, I was one of those people. That's clearly not the case at this point, but regardless, when you look into the Celtics basically working together, figuring out how to work with each other to contribute more, to have better games, that has never been more evident than this year. When you look at a Celtics game, right, and you look at last year or even the year before, now this still happens, but Jayson Tatum in past years, a lot of the time will get stuck into like maybe an ISO habit. He maybe struggles to pass out of a double team a bit more often than you would like. And moving the ball around to some teammates trying to get some open looks, yes, it still happened. The Celtics had a ton of skill. They could make it happen. But is it just me, or did it never feel as fluid as it does this year? When I'm watching a Celtics playoff game, it's almost magical at times, right? Watching them move the ball around, everyone getting involved, everyone playing their roles to perfection. And we talk about Jrue Holiday, who's currently, I believe, at his career high for a true shooting percentage in any playoffs in his career. And now, while it's only a 55 true shooting percentage, I mean, not only, but that's not elite or anything. Jrue Holiday has typically been a bit lower in the playoffs than his regular season. He's still playing well. Why? Because he's not forced to take any other crazy shots, right? Jrue Holiday is in here and he is basically just doing exactly what you need him to do. That elite defense. He had some elite corner three shooting in the regular season. He's bringing some other elements to the game here. Derrick White being able to step up. But the biggest thing for me is Jaylen Brown seemingly forcing fewer shots. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just the eye test. I certainly feel it. But also Jayson Tatum's ability to make passes under pressure. That's something we've seen improve every single year, right? Every single playoffs. We say, oh, Tatum's passing better now. He's getting better, better, better. And despite all the people saying, oh, look at Tatum, like even though he has 30-point triple doubles, he'll still have the scattered game where it's like 21 and 7 or whatever on 8 for 17 shooting. People say, oh, look at him, superstar, all NBA. Oh, no, he's not. The thing is, he's getting double teamed. He's getting focused on by pretty much everyone on the court. So when Tatum gets that ball and he has to move it, communicate with his teammates where to go, what to do, and then Tatum himself has to make the right decision, that is something that has improved drastically this year, at least in my eyes. Maybe you guys have different opinions. I'd love for you to leave them down below. But the cohesion of this Celtics unit, even without Kristaps Porzingis for the past series and a bit, right, has just been amazing because they all give their individual roles and they're all seemingly bought in to this one goal. Now, at the same time, there are still some stretches watching Celtics basketball that makes you panic. It makes you, why are you ISOing? Why are we just settling for a step back shot after you dribbled out 20 seconds of the shot clock? It is what it is. But I think Mazzulla has a great point altogether. Watching these games back, taking time to come together as a group has really paid dividends for Boston. But we now got to get into the actual Kristaps stuff. And so there's a bit of a truth behind this, right? So we all know Kristaps, this new injury update from Woj saying Kristaps is going to be out for games 1 and 2. Now, again, like this is Woj speak for he'll be back for game 3, but the doctors aren't letting me officially say that, but that's kind of what it is with Wojnarowski. It's kind of what happens. Of course, he's been out since April 30th, game 5 of the first round series. So, of course, being back for potentially game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals has a lot of Celtics fans excited, myself included. It's awesome to see Kristaps back. But there's also fans who are saying, like, why don't we just rest him more? why don't we just let Kristaps Porzingis heal fully, right? Let's not rush him back, even though I don't think this would be rushing him back. I think it's clear that they are taking their time, but let's just give him even more rest than he needs to make sure he's 100% because, oh, the Celtics, they probably don't even need him for this series, right? It's the banged up Knicks who have a ton of injuries. They're just kind of overcoming the odds right now. The Celtics will shut him down, or the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton scared to shoot. The Pacers don't have a great roster. And they also look at stats like this, like the Celtics without Kristaps Porzingis this playoffs are 5-1. They're averaging more points, more rebounds per game. Obviously, their blocks and steals are down without Porzingis because he does level up their defense. But overall, their efficiencies are pretty darn close. Their field goal percentage is actually much better without him this playoffs. And I'm seeing people citing this as like, hey, let's just give him some rest, right? We have guys like Al Horford, who over his last 5 games, well, in games 3 and 4 was really not ideal, combined 0 for 10 from 3, but that last game against Cleveland has shown he still has some stuff left in the tank. We also have guys like Luke Kornet who are stepping up on the shot blocking and on defense. But what Kristaps Porzingis brings is other elements, right? You're going to need him eventually, right? I think Celtics fans know that. But I think bringing him back as soon as you can is going to be crucial because not only does he change the whole dynamic of the Celtics offense that I'm going to get into in a minute, but he needs some time to warm up. If you want Kristaps Porzingis ready for the NBA Finals, you can't just rest him the whole conference finals, even if you're able to. You need a guy who's in rhythm, who's going up against different defensive matchups, whether it's the Indiana Pacers with Miles Turner, a fantastic defender, right? Or the New York Knicks and whoever they decide to end up throwing on him because they're injury riddled. You never really know what those matchups are going to be. Would it really shock you if even Josh Hart went on Porzingis? Yeah, actually it would. Porzingis could just shoot over him. But that's the thing, right? You need him to get into that rhythm of shooting. He wasn't averaging great splits against Miami even before he got injured, but there are going to be moments where they need to rely on him, specifically on the defensive end, but also one little aspect on the offensive end. I'm going to get into some interesting stats about Kristaps Porzingis here. So basically, the Celtics, we know they've had success with Horford. Their net rating with Horford is actually very, very good. I think it's like plus 16 points per 100 possessions, something like that. And he can definitely shoot threes. That's kind of what Al has been relegated to. Also, fun fact, before I keep going, did you guys know Al Horford is currently leading the playoffs in 2-point percentage? 72.6% from 2 for Al Horford. I mean, he basically only shoots threes, but I thought that was pretty cool. So, yeah, that's interesting. But we're going to get back into Kristaps here. So, Horford can shoot threes, of course. Porzingis shot them at a higher volume, though, during the regular season, which makes sense. Porzingis is also a three-point shooter who played a lot more minutes. But the big thing is the rim protection. Now, while Luke Kornet is a serviceable rim protector for sure, I mean, he's had his great moments blocking some great shots, Al is not quite there anymore. Porzingis is in the 96th percentile, while Horford's only in the 66th. But it's not only that. The defense, you can make up for it in other ways. Rim protection is obviously a big thing, especially when you're going up against better and better teams with better and better slashers. You're going to need a bit of rim protection. But I think the offensive aspect of this is what's going to matter a lot. And that's his post-up. We've been talking about this all season. Kristaps Porzingis' proficiency in the post-up. 96th percentile in post-up offense with 1.3 points per possession in post-up situations during the regular season. And again, we've talked about this a lot, but that is such a difference maker, right? Right now, the Celtics do not have a true post threat. And, you have Al Horford, you have Kornet, they don't really go back to basket at all. But, some people might say that's an ancient way to play. Not ancient, but you don't really have too many post-ups anymore. Yeah, you have Embiid and you still have Jokic doing it and stuff like that, but you don't need that to win. But depending on the defensive scheme, it can make a huge difference depending on who you're playing against, right? If you have Porzingis out there, look at what the Timberwolves are doing to the Denver Nuggets, right? They're not putting Rudy Gobert on Nikola Jokic. They're putting Cat on him because Cat is stronger, he's bigger, he's better at defending Jokic's kind of post-ups and little moves around the rim. And you have Gobert there for rim protection. So if another team decides to do something like that for the Celtics, well, maybe you have to put Cat on Porzingis and you have Gobert for rim protection, or you have another team like, say, the Indiana Pacers. Are you going to want to put Miles Turner on Kristaps Porzingis? When Miles Turner is a great rim protector, fantastic, right? So if the Celtics play the Pacers, that's probably going to be the matchup. Or do you want to make sure you keep Miles Turner in the paint? Again, kind of a roaming guy who can block a lot of shots, and you put someone else on Porzingis. Well, that's not really going to work because Porzingis is going to be able to, if that defender is much smaller, which is a possibility for sure, he's going to be able to post them up and he's going to be able to get baskets from a lot of different other ways. If it's a shorter defender, he can shoot over them. He can post them up, right? But if you have to put Miles Turner on him, you have Porzingis, who is a prolific three-point shooter who can just stand around the arc and drag one of the top rim protectors out of the paint. So anyway, there's a bunch of different matchups, a bunch of different ways this can go. But this little detail about Porzingis, any fan saying, just rest him, just need him for the finals, who cares about the conference finals? I don't think that's quite what the Celtics need. I think Porzingis needs to come back. I think he needs to start to get into a rhythm. You need to start getting him touches in the post. You need to start getting him 3-point shots. Anything you can. And if the idea is that the Celtics can beat whoever it is, the Knicks or Pacers without him, well, that means those teams are probably not going to compare very well to the Celtics anyway, so you can put Porzingis out there, give him a lot of easier opportunities. I don't think it's going to be easy by any means, but I'm just saying, I think Porzingis coming back is going to be a huge, huge bonus for the Celtics. So shocker there, hot take, I know. But yeah, these little things. Get him the post-ups, get him the threes, get him into a rhythm. Those are the keys that I feel like no one's really talking about at this point. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this down below in the comments, because I think these are almost underrated aspects of Porzingis, especially the post-up stuff. So anyway, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. But that'll do it for this episode of Celtics Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the Celtics Digest channel. Guys, we got content every single day throughout the playoffs. There'll be live watch-alongs with Bruce. There'll be lives all over the playoffs. There'll be videos, post-games, news in between. So if you want to stay up to date on all things Celtics, this is the end of the video. You know what? I'm not going to cut that out. People make mistakes in these videos. It is what it is. And if you're still here watching and you just saw me make that, leave a comment down below letting me know how much I screwed up. I've been your host, Josh Gosse. I'll catch you in the next one.